She was planning a future full of kindness, faith, and service. But one late-night shift she walked away and never came home. Emily Murray was 20 years old, college junior, full of hope, of dreams, of morning prayers and late-night conversations. She had just quit her job, was preparing for what came next. But after closing up at Pirates Cove in Gambier, Ohio, something happened that changed everything. Her friends assumed she would show up for a party. Her family expected her to call. But hours passed without her, and the things that were so routine, her car, her keys, her laughter, began to vanish. The line between ordinary and nightmare blurred. What started as a disappearance became a horrifying mystery. A broken time card, car parked in the wrong place, trailer far from campus, and later, a body wrapped in carpet, evidence hidden in shadows, pieces of a life buried in the dirt. In tonight's episode, we will follow Emily's story. Not just the crime, but the person, the world she was building, the last normal day she had, the moment her routine broke, and the desperate search that followed. Witnesses, clues, forensics, mistakes, and finally, a trial that would force a community to reckon with grief, justice, and truth. Stay with me, because sometimes what people don't see is what pulls the darkness closer. Emily Sandra Murray was born in February 1980 in Sleepy Hollow, New York. She grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio. From childhood, she was known for her gentle spirit. Curious, kind, drawn to understanding others. She loved literature, faith, questions. She was small in stature but large in heart. At Shaker Heights High School, Emily showed both academic promise and compassion. She volunteered, she read, she listened. She finished school caring more about connection than recognition, more about faith than applause. Her friends remember her laugh, her warmth, and how she looked for the best in people. Then she moved on to Kenyon College, in Gambier, Ohio. Philosophy major. Part-time server at Pirates Cove, a restaurant just steps from her dorm. Emily chose her studies not just to think about life, but to grapple with what gives life meaning. She often spoke quietly about becoming an Episcopal priest. Her faith was not shy. It was woven into how she treated others, with gentleness, with empathy. Emily had traveled to a semester abroad. She saw parts of the world, and she brought back a deeper love for ideas, for culture, for inclusion. She stayed in touch with her family almost daily. Her parents described her as responsible, honest, someone who made plans, small and large, with care. Her friends described someone outgoing, social, but never reckless. She was light in conversation, serious in thought. When she laughed, people noticed. When she paused, people listened. She worked hard, late nights at Pirates Cove, but also found joy in small moments. A walk, a conversation, a book. She was deeply religious. Most people who knew her said she was trusting. She believed in people. She believed faith could guide actions. By November 2000, Emily's junior year was full of promise. She had just quit her job, preparing to move into her next phase. Her life, though young, felt anchored by values. Her community loved her. Her future seemed bright. And yet, just as the world around her thought they knew her, the worst kind of betrayal would shatter that trust. It was the evening of November 2nd, 2000. Emily Murray's last full night of work at Pirates Cove. She had announced she was going to leave the job, move on. Friends came by to help her celebrate. There was laughter, conversation, perhaps a sense of transition. She clocked in, served customers, smiled at familiar faces. The place was small, cozy, dimly lit. Nothing seemed out of place. She finished her shift at 3:07 a.m., according to the employee time card. Her co-workers said she was in good spirits. The bartender, Nathan Justice, remembers seeing her after closing, looking for her keys. It was just before 3:30 a.m. She chatted briefly, perhaps saying good night or talking about the coming days. Then she left, walking toward her car. Her Subaru Outback was where she had parked it many nights before. The air was cold. The walk routine. She knew the way, had locked the doors before, made sure things were secure. No alarm, no fight, no sign something was coming. But by that moment, a fault line had formed. Emily did not return to her dorm. She did not show up at a party she had planned to attend later. Friends waited. Hours turned. Her car was missing. Her phone unanswered. Wallet still in the dorm room. Her bank cards, driver's license, they were all still with her things. Those small anomalies piled up. Emily missing dinner. No calls. A roommate thinking, she must have stayed late. But then realizing, that's not like her. The trust that routine offers began to crack. Late that night, she ceased to be just a student. She became a missing person. Her community awakened to the fear that her life, vibrant, promising, might already have entered the shadows. When morning broke on November 3rd, Emily's absence was unsettling. Roommates looked for her. Friends called. Her shifts at work were always reliable. Her social plans expected. But she didn't answer. Her car was nowhere near campus. Her wallet, driver's licenses, credit cards, everything, lay in her dorm room. Panic crept in. Her parents were alerted. Kenyan college security was notified. People searched. Every corridor, every familiar haunt was checked. But there was no sign of Emily. It was as though she had simply vanished. Days passed. People gave interviews. Her co-workers said she never missed work without warning. She never failed to let someone know where she was. The college community and local law enforcement cooperated. Posters were made. Rumors circulated. Then came a break in the case. On December 9, 2000, deputies went to a trailer owned by Gregory "Greg" McKnight on unrelated charges. There, parked behind his trailer, was Emily's Subaru Outback, abandoned, recognizable. The license plate matched Emily's car. Investigators ran the tag and tied it to her disappearance. With that, a search warrant was obtained. Inside McKnight's trailer, a carpet with bloodstains near the front door. A trail of blood down the hallway. In a spare bedroom, Emily's body wrapped in a rug. Evidence was everywhere. In drawers, shell casings, bullets. In living areas, duct tape with blood. On the property, human bones, clothing, items burned in a root cellar. A cistern held clothing and bones. Plastic bag had pieces. The remains of another young man, Greg Julius, whose disappearance several months earlier would tie him tragically into this case. Emily had died from a single gunshot wound to the head, fired at close range by a powerful weapon. For Emily's family, the discovery was unbearable. For investigators, it was a moment of both horror and clarity. The case was no longer about hope. It was about justice. After Emily's body was found, law enforcement launched a full investigation. It was no longer a missing person matter. It was a homicide case, tying together evidence both fresh and months old. First, forensic work. Crime scene investigators collected shell casings. They catalogued bullets from drawers, matches with purchased guns. They gathered blood samples, collected carpet fibers, photographed every bloodstained surface. The rug, the floor, the hallway, all were preserved as evidence. They also searched every inch of McKnight's property. The root cellar had been set on fire, bones burned, clothing charred, bodies of evidence hidden in the cistern and in plastic bags. Every place suggests someone tried to hide what was done. Forensic anthropology came into play. Human bones were identified. One set was linked to Greg Julius, missing since May 2000. Investigators worked to establish timelines. When items were moved or hidden, when fire was started, when bodies were burned or buried. Meanwhile, investigation of Emily's disappearance started with her last known whereabouts. Her co-worker Nathan Justice testified about seeing her at the restaurant, looking for her keys before 3:30 a.m. Time records placed her finishing work around 3:07 a.m. Her car's usual spot was empty. McKnight became a person of interest early. He worked at the same restaurant. He had previously been convicted as a juvenile in a shooting case. Friends said things that made them uneasy. One said McKnight allegedly told someone that Emily was probably dead soon after her disappearance. The search of his trailer was triggered not by Emily's case alone but by an unrelated indictment. But when officers saw the Subaru, the license plate, it became central. Ballistics reports. Shell casings, bullets found in drawers matching McKnight's ownership or possible possession. Gun purchases traced in his name. Forensic reports tied bloodstains in carpet and on duct tape. DNA analyses helped connect evidence. Autopsy. The cause of death for Emily was a single gunshot to the head. The shot was fired close or touching her skin. That point, distance, angle, became critical in trying to determine intent, opportunity, and control. But investigators faced obstacles. Witness accounts varied. Some recollections disputed. Defense lawyers tried to cast doubt on whether the evidence was properly collected, whether chain of custody was intact, whether witnesses were credible. Emily's faith, her writings, some of which addressed depression and therapy, were brought up by defense to suggest alternative theories. Through every forensic test, every interview, every shadow cast over witness testimony, the truth edged closer. The pieces, bullets, blood, bones, burned cloth, property ownership, formed a dark mosaic. And in that mosaic, Gregory McKnight's name came into sharper focus. From early in the investigation, Gregory McKnight stood out. An employee at Pirates Cove, someone who knew Emily, someone with a past, a man with prior gun violence in his juvenile years. A neighbor, friends, co-workers, and investigators all noticed what lingered in small statements, what was inconsistent in interviews. McKnight's alibi was tenuous. He claimed to have left work late that night, but nobody confirmed seeing him with Emily leaving or traveling together. Others recounted he was seen at work until closing, but after that, his movements were unaccounted for. His demeanor shifted. Friends said he had made comments. Once, allegedly, he told Nathan Justice that Emily was probably dead. Whether that was thoughtless, cruel speculation or something darker, would become a critical moment in how investigators viewed him. Then came the breakthrough moments. The discovery of Emily's Subaru parked behind McKnight's trailer connected him physically to the case. The trail of blood inside his trailer, the carpet with bloodstains, the shell casings, the duct tape, the bones of another missing young man, Greg Julius, on the same property. A property that McKnight had access to, where evidence of two tragedies intersected. Ballistics linked the shell casings found in drawers to firearms McKnight had purchased. Forensic anthropologists located burned bones and items, which corresponded with Julius' missing person reports. Investigators pieced together time records, cell data where available, statements from eyewitnesses, and inconsistencies in McKnight's accounts. Under oath, some former associates admitted to hearing questionable phrases from McKnight shortly after Emily's disappearance. Despite defense efforts to cast alternate explanations, suicide, voluntary disappearance, mistaken identity, the cumulative weight of forensic evidence was overwhelming. Each piece, the blood trail, the bullets, the found body, the other bones, all pointed toward the same place, the same person, the same property. By the time the case went to trial, prosecutors had assembled a dossier that presented both motive and opportunity. McKnight had been close by, had access to Emily's car, had known Emily, had past violence in his record. The forensic evidence tied him directly to the crime scene. There was no longer reasonable doubt left in their presentation. The trial of Gregory McKnight began in 2002. It was a case that gripped Gambier, Ohio. Emily's parents, her friends, her professors sat in those courtroom pews, their grief both visible and restrained. Prosecutors laid out the chain of evidence. The blood in the hallway, the bullets and shell casings, the remains of Emily wrapped in carpet, the car parked behind McKnight's trailer. They detailed the link to the bones of Greg Julius. They painted a portrait not only of murder, but of attempts to hide, to burn, to destroy what could testify. McKnight's defense waged counterclaims that the evidence might be contaminated, that some witnesses were unreliable, that Emily's writings and personal struggles might suggest things were not as simple as the prosecution claimed. But the jury saw more. The physical trace evidence, the consistency of statements, the forensic matches. At the end, the verdict was guilty, on numerous counts: murder, aggravated murder, kidnapping, aggravated robbery, receiving stolen property. The most serious charges carried the death sentence. After appeal, the Supreme Court of Ohio affirmed the convictions and upheld the death sentence against McKnight. For Emily's loved ones, the verdict brought no full comfort, but it brought acknowledgement. The legal system had recognized that a life had been taken, that someone was accountable. The community breathed a collective sigh. Justice had spoken, even if some wounds would never fully heal. In the years following Emily's murder, Kenyon College and the Gambier community have not forgotten her. She was awarded an honorary degree, a small, symbolic gesture that acknowledged who she could have become. Friends remember her with scholarship funds. People speak of her kindness, her faith, her trust. Her case raised alarm about safety for young people working late nights, about how missing persons cases are handled, about how quickly evidence must be followed up. It stands as a reminder. Even in small towns, even among acquaintances, danger can be close. Emily's legacy is not defined by how she died, but by how she lived. Her love of learning, her compassion, her desire to serve. Though she was taken too soon, many choose to carry forward the light she offered, by caring, by speaking, by refusing to look away. Her story unsettles us. It reminds us that people we think we know may still hold secrets, that ordinary nights can become tragedies, that life doesn't always follow the path we expect. If this case moved you, if it stirred anger or sorrow, please like this video, share it, and subscribe for more true crime stories told with empathy and care. Let us honor Emily Murray not just by remembering how she died, but by cherishing how she lived. Consider supporting organizations that aid missing persons investigations, assist victim families, or work to ensure campus and workplace safety. Every voice matters when darkness looms. Until next time, stay alert, stay kind, stay vigilant.